everyone. This is Maheen, and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast. Today, we are discussing the power of visionary leadership and market expansion. In 2026, breaking through domestic borders requires more than just a good product. It requires a platform that empowers every individual within the organization to think like an owner. Joining us is Jamie Prickett, the co-founder of Superior Financial Group and co-CEO of AOG. Alongside his wife, Leanne, Jamie has grown Superior into a powerhouse with over 17,000 licensed agents, becoming the first Canadian insurance agency to successfully enter and license in all 50 US states. So without further ado, let's dive in and welcome Jamie. Jamie, it's a pleasure having you on the show today. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thanks, Maheen. Appreciate it. Really well, thanks.
Very pleased to have you join us. Now, Jamie, let's begin the conversation by understanding the better way to build. You and Leanne entered the insurance industry with 20 years of experience, but felt the traditional business model was fundamentally flawed. Tell us, what was your vision behind Experior and why focus on an ownership-first model?
Well, I joined the industry, and when I was 21, I was working as an apprentice machinist right out of high school. I was there for 3 years. I got recruited into the insurance world by fluke from a friend of mine who never did pursue it as a career. And the company I was with, I had a great experience. I learned a lot, but I was still struggling to get the business going after 10 years. So my wife and we had actually met in that company. We decided after I was there for 10 years, she was there for 6 or 7. We decided to leave and just become independent agents offering products from, different companies in Canada. And we kind of fell in love with the industry all over again. And we felt like we were blindsided in a way that we didn't have our minds open to what else is out there until we became independent. And we kind of fell in love with the industry all over again and decided, why don't we take the good from this model that we came from and the good from the independent model and bring it together? And we actually didn't want to start a company. We wanted to find a company that had what we were looking for. And there just wasn't anything out there. So we're like, well, I guess we got to start it. And it was her and I and 5 people. And we said, hey, we're going to do something crazy. And that's how it all started.
Wow. Creating a culture where everyone has a stake in the success is clearly the engine behind your massive retention and growth, Jamie. Now let's explore how you successfully expanded and scaled across the US market, which is very difficult to in the first place. Please tell us, what challenges did you face entering the US market, and what is your advice for expansion?
Well, our first challenge was the pandemic hit. About 6 months after we opened up a home office in Buffalo, New York. We chose Buffalo, New York because we could drive there and commute, and started training some staff up in that area. Then when the pandemic hit, that kind of put a damper on our plans, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise from a business standpoint, because then people got more comfortable doing things on Zoom and using technology to communicate versus a lot of times prior to that. Most of the big meetings we had with big leaders in the industry were always face to face. I think the pandemic sped up the openness for people to do business online. So we've opened up in all 50 states. We're operating very successfully in every one of them. And I've probably only been to like 12 states myself, but yet we have agents all over the place. And I think the blessing and the curse was the pandemic. But the challenges we faced was a lot to do with regulatory, just getting familiar with each state. They have different rules. And that just took time. I mean, it was about 2 years from when we set foot in the US before we started turning any profit at all. And now it's become the biggest part of our organization.
Wow. Successfully navigating 50 different regulatory environments, it really proves that your technology and your leadership systems are really built for a global scale. Next up, Jamie, let's discuss how leadership development drives consistent business growth. How do you develop leaders at scale and stay personally motivated?
Well, I think leadership is everything in business. I think that, a business will succeed or fail depending on the leadership of that organization. So one thing for myself, I try to personally work on myself and try to get better every day. Sometimes I joke with my wife. She's like, why would you do that? And I'm like, well, that was the old me. And she's like, well, that was 5 minutes ago. I'm like, it was still the old me. I'm a new man. I'm moving forward. I
Yeah.
kind of joke with her, but that's kind of my attitude is I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. And I think as people in whatever careers we're in, if we only focused on getting 1% better every day over, a couple of years, you're 100xing, 1000xing how good you are today, just improving by 1% every day.
Aligning professional excellence with personal growth, it creates a high performance environment that sustains itself through the hardest stages of growth. And to all the entrepreneurs that are watching, in 2026, the greatest asset that you can build isn't your balance sheet, it's your people. And Jamie's story firsthand, its experience proved that when you give people a piece of the pie and invest in their personal growth, they will help you build an empire. So please, how you treat your team today is so important, which is exactly how your business will look tomorrow. Um, Next up, Jamie, let's look at how your recent merger is shaping the path towards an IPO. How has the AOG merger shaped your IPO roadmap?
Well, prior to the merger with AOG, which happened this past September 2025, so about 7 months ago.
Mhm.
And prior to that, we were already offering equity in Experior. So as of the time when we did it, we had a little over 30% of our company was owned by the leaders that we had developed that helped us create it. The challenge we had is we didn't really have a clear exit strategy. And a lot of companies in our space, they end up selling to a consolidator, and that's a way to cash out all your chips. But then you go from being a successful entrepreneur to an employee of your own company. And I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So when we met with AOG, they had a clear path to be IPO ready in 2028. And we just fell in love with that. There's a lot of credibility around the table with some of the guys at the board level there. And we did a lot of investigation and we decided to go all in with it. And now, in just the past 6 or 7 months, what was supposed to take us about 2.5 years, 3 years, we've already accomplished in 6 or 7 months. And I would argue that we're already IPO ready today. It's now a matter of when we decide that we're going to go and either, direct list or IPO.
Preparing for a public offering, it requires a level of operational discipline that will set a new standard for the financial services industry in Canada. Finally, Jamie, let's explore how your mission supports long-term financial stability for families. What financial shifts should families make to secure their future today?
I think just starting small and then working up from there, right? A lot of people say, well, I can't afford to invest, or I can't afford insurance, or I can't afford various products. But if you just start off small, even something as little as $25 a month, you can invest into starting your RSP or your TFSA here in Canada. Something small, because it just creates that discipline. And once it starts going out of your bank, I mean, it's like just anything pre-authorized that comes out of our account, we just get used to it after a period of time. Kind of like when we buy a car, like a lot of times people jump into a $300, $800 a month payment, whatever it is, and we just live with that and we work around it. But if we don't put ourselves first when it comes to our future, everything else will grab at that money before you get a chance to invest in yourself. So we just encourage people to put yourself first. If you're, rather than all your other bill collectors and everything else, put yourself first.
Providing practical path to debt freedom is the ultimate way, no doubt, to empower the community and build long-term generational wealth. This was a great conversation. Thank you, Jamie. It was short but very insightful in terms of understanding lots in terms of financial resilience for families or perhaps leadership and personal growth. So thank you for sharing such great expertise. As you wrap up, what advice would you give to a business owner that is struggling to motivate their team?
Just be consistent. I think that people want to know that they're following a leader, they're following an entrepreneur that is consistent in their actions, showing up every day, always putting the right work in. I think some people try and get too fancy and try to find a quick fix to get their business going. And I think people can appreciate consistency and then, push people up, right? If you ever have to, tell someone that they're doing something correctly, right? You have to adjust, do that in private, but anytime you have to praise, do that in public. I learned a long time ago that people will work harder for appreciation, respect, and encouragement than they will for a paycheck. And that's one thing I think is so important.
That is a great reminder, Jamie, that true leadership, it starts with the example that you set in every small action. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing such great insights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And listeners, that was Jamie Prickett from Experior Financial Group Inc., a masterclass on how to lead with faith, expand with courage, and build a business where everyone gets a seat at the table. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Please be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more resources. To learn more about how we are supporting the ecosystem, please visit Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at smbfoundation.ca. And before we leave, a special shout out to ADP and UPS for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses across Canada. Please keep thriving, and we'll see you in the next one.